Hi everyone, I'm Jana and I'm the co-founder here at Kind Community and your host for today's show. We share stories of found activists and influencers promoting positivity and protection of our planet, discussing how collaboration can help make the sustainable attainable. On today's episode, we have Geraldine Starke, founder of Refarm'd, helping farmers switch to plant milk production and transform their lands into an animal sanctuary for their herds. After traveling the globe with her family, Geraldine studied management and business in the hospitality industry. She also became vegan 10 years ago for ethical reasons. Always an activist for animals, she launched several vegan businesses and worked on building a village. She is dedicated to ending exploitation of animals for the environment and for humans, helping us to live a healthy and more compassionate life. Geraldine is here today to talk about her journey and the importance of animal activism, indeed how it helps the planet and its people. Geraldine, it's an absolute pleasure for you to join us today. How are you?
Hi everyone. I'm great, thanks. And yourself?
I'm great. I'm wonderful. I mean, it's the weather's not too great here in London, unless you're a duck or a fish. But it's a break from the sun we've had recently. But all good otherwise. I'm really looking forward to today. So, tell me more. You became a vegan 10 years ago. Was there something in particular that triggered this change, and was it an immediate change, or was it more of a gradual transition?
Yeah, I think it was like already in my mind a bit before. I was working, as you mentioned, in hospital industry. So I was working. My last job there was in a grill house, so really meaty, obviously. And I was never like a meat person. And then we also had 3 dogs that we were feeding on a raw meat diet. So we were going to butcher and buying huge quantities. So this all added a lot of disgust to me for that. And yeah, at some point, my husband saw a video from a slaughterhouse. I think it was from PETA, or I'm not sure. And he was like, "Okay, I'm not eating meat anymore." So we stopped at that point immediately. Meat, that was easy for me and for him as well. We're like really disgusted about that. And then only a few, like maybe a month later, it's my brother actually who showed us the speech of Gary Rovsky, if you know this one. And for us it was okay, that's it, we're now vegan, and we made the change then immediately. Obviously it was difficult in the beginning. We had to read all the labels and packages and stuff, but I think because we did it together, it was as well easier for us.
So it was started with meat, and then did that immediately go to non-dairy cheeses and things like that?
You mean using alternatives, or?
Yeah, like you saw the video of and the speech about the slaughterhouse and meat, but was the transition to also completely doing away with dairy products entirely and eggs?
Yeah, that was after the video of Gary Rovsky. When we saw this one, that convinced us to do the next step and quit eggs and dairy and all that.
So, Geraldine, how would you recommend to others and how they begin their journey into meat and dairy-free living?
Oh, it's so different for people. Everybody will connect to a different reason, if I can say so. For some, it's telling for them to know exactly about what's happening, the cruelty to animals and things that I will really kind of wake them up and help them make the move. For others, it will take much more time. It really depends on the people, how they're living, and I think the best is to get surrounded by people who are already either transitioned or on the transition, to not feel, because that's a big thing, I think, is to feel alone in that, and because you get judged, you get laughed at, from family, even friends, so it's really difficult. So if you're alone, I don't know if I was alone at that time, if I would have made this transition like this. So if you have friends, or if you know anybody that can help you through it, that's much better. There are now communities, online communities as well. Of course, there are some groups, where you get advice, health advice as well, nutritional advice, to like this 21 challenge, I think, vegan 21 challenge and things like that. So to definitely get support, to get through this first month.
Yeah, I can only echo that. I found it the same when during our transition. Like myself, it was I actually got more stick from my friends about going vegan than anyone else. But when you start surrounding yourself with like-minded people, you get through it. It becomes easier.
Exactly.
Compassion for animals is clearly important to you. On a more personal level, how would you describe the love and connection between animals and people? What about the connection between animals and the planet?
It's a good question. um, I don't know if we can. It's so easy to like differentiate that, or to even know how animals connect to each other or to the planet. But just like seeing the animals like as persons as much as us really helps connecting to them on a different level, to really see that every animal, every insect, every living being has a role to play on this planet, and they deserve as much as anybody of us to live. That really helps us see them differently. Even those animals or insects that we, for example, are afraid of, or that we think are dumb or have no interest, they all have a goal. And I think like the definition of veganism in the end is, to try to do as less harm as possible, because in the end we're always kind of harming something or someone, is to really have that in mind, to do the least harm we can around us, for around humans, but also animals, insects, plants, and respecting the nature in general.
Yeah. So, in order for humans to lead ethical lives, should we apply our own ethical standards to animals, or is it as simple as just not producing food and products that cause harm?
Yeah, no, we cannot really, I think, apply our own ethics to animals. I mean, we know that some animals need to kill other animals to eat and things like that, but that's really totally different than what we are doing. That's really a biological need from them, and they're not, breeding and enslaving them and all this. So no, that there's no really a point to try to change those animals into vegans or something like that. So it just, as us, we always like to say that humans are, well, not we, but in general, people like to say that humans are above others, they are more intelligent and everything. Well, I think that's, if that's true, then that's even a reason more where we should be the ones not harming anything, because we have these capabilities to think further, to be conscious, to and it's really easy to, it's actually easy to be mean, but it's hard to be kind. And so I think that's really shows when someone can, be compassionate and kind. And it's really, you have to work on yourself on that. And I think that's our role. If you really are above anybody else, then that should be to use that to do more good, and not, to use force on others because they're, just weaker or something, or smaller.
Yeah, Geraldine, I love that. I love that. So you helped build a vegan village. Can you tell us a bit more about that process? It's a community project. Can anyone get involved? What were the challenges, and can you visualize the next steps? Is it vegan cities, vegan countries? Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so it really didn't really get to the end point of being a vegan village. There are still people living there and trying to do something about it, but it definitely were a lot of challenges. And we quite quickly realized that although we all share the same values, we were all vegans, and we wanted to create this kind of image of a vegan village, sustainable village, where how it could look like. But in the end, we realized that that's usually not enough for a community to thrive and to be well together, because we share some values, but for a lot of other things we can be so different. And it's already difficult to live inside a same house, for example, with your family or your husband and wife or your children, but imagine with 10, 20, 30 other people that you barely know. It really is difficult. So we realized there were too many different, in the beginning we didn't want to put too many rules. We really wanted it to be very open, but we realized there are so many different views on things that people had, that we had to start adding rules even before starting really being on the land and everything. And at some point it just became not fun anymore. It was just another uh, thing where you had lots of rules, and we didn't have all the same vision. It was really difficult. We did acquire land at some point, so it was in Portugal, 100-hectare land, but it was not allowed to build on it. So we had to try to make, wood, and even that was actually not really allowed. So we started having problems with the neighbors, and yeah, most people were there just to come and find a place, but not really live there. So there were not enough people really involved in it. So we left at that point as well, because we realized actually that what we wanted is not just to live somewhere amongst our, same-minded people, and that we really wanted to have an impact, and help more people come to this movement. So it's not by being just between us, and shutting down basically from the rest of the world that we're going to make more progress. So at some point for us, it was not, we didn't want to continue anymore. But I know that a few are still stayed. Then sadly last year there were fire, so it burned almost the whole land down, and now they're trying to rebuild it. It's called Vigoa, if anybody's interested to look at, or the land itself is Vegan Hills. I know people can still apply. I don't know now exactly the rules and everything to join and all, but that's still ongoing. But yeah, I don't know if it will succeed or not, or how long it will be. But it's just much more difficult than we envisioned.
Yeah, for sure, I can imagine. And what was the name of it? Vegan Hills.
Vegan Hills is the place, the land, but the organization was called Vigoa.
Okay, amazing. So there's often resistance to veganism in the dairy industry. Part of this seems to come from an unfounded fear that traditional dairy farms will lose business and eventually fail. What Refarm'd is doing that's particularly special is that it provides an exit strategy for farmers, so that farming dairy isn't the only option. So the farmers you work with already have an incentive to change from dairy to plant-based, or have you found it's a process of convincing? Do you encounter resistance?
So yeah, in the beginning, I thought I would have to go out, and convince farmers when I started all this. But actually, the thing, it changed totally when we started working. Initially, I started talking to a lot of, especially ex-farmers who already made the transition, to help me out on this project, and just people in these industries in general. And when we started working with our first farmer, we got more and more media attention. And from that, it actually reached a lot of people, or the organization helping farmers and farmers themselves. So we started to get farmers contacting us, and that's how we worked with 2 other farms. So we worked with 3 farms in 2020. And actually now we have a waiting list of farmers that want to get out of it for different reasons. There's a lot about sustainability. A lot. They really realize the impact they have with their farm, and also more and more really for ethical reasons. They don't want to do it anymore. So we really now have ended up with this list, and get contacted more and more. And I know that the more we're gonna work with farmers, the more they're gonna be successful, the more we will have others. So it's really great for us, because there shows there is really a need there to help those farmers get out of this industry. And so yeah, we were really happy that we don't need to go out and convince. And that's really now how we decided to work, is to only work with those who want to be helped, and not to go out and try to convince someone who is happy about what he's doing. That doesn't make sense. We would lose so much time, and it just doesn't work like this.
Yeah, okay. It would be a lot of energy consumed with someone that doesn't want to change their ways at that moment. You've got a wait list, so let's help those guys.
Exactly.
We understand that building a sanctuary can be somewhat of a challenge, being heavily reliant on donations and struggling with scalability. But you notice something about dairy farms. They already are essentially operational sanctuaries, capable of caring for and protecting animals. But can you talk us through what it means for a farm to transform into a sanctuary, changing to a plant milk facility? What production changes must farmers undergo, and how do you support them? Is it expensive?
So it really all started like this, is that I always wanted to build a self-sustainable model of sanctuaries, because currently sanctuaries rely on donations, on volunteers. So at some point I was just like, well, farms could be the perfect place. They already have the land, the animals, the infrastructure. They know how to care for these animals on a daily basis. We just need to provide them with a new business model so that don't, make profit from the animals anymore. And so that's really how it all started. And so the transition basically, so we're working, what's important to mention is we're working with small to medium scale farms. I'm not talking about factory farms and things like that where we cannot keep the animals in those conditions. So we're working with farmers who already have good conditions for these animals. So that means they can keep their animals there. In some cases, they had to still make some arrangements, renew the barn and things like that, but they could already keep the animals and give them a good life, let's say. So the transition in this sense is quite quick. There's not much change to do. For dairy farmers, the main transition is to transition the cows from producing milk to not producing milk. So this is a step that is totally doable. That's something where a lot of people think that we need to milk cows and, cows will suffer if we don't. That's true if we continue to breed them, if we continue to feed them a special feed that makes them more productive, and if we continue to milk them on a daily basis. It's like a human being, a woman doesn't give milk like this, gives milk because it has had a baby, and because the baby keeps nursing. But when the baby stops nursing, the mother stops producing milk. So it's the same with cows, is that you slowly reduce the amount you are milking from them so that they slowly produce less. You stop feeding them this special feed that is there to make them more productive. Those animals go back to just hay and grass, what's their normal food. And if they were pregnant, because in most cases, lots of them are pregnant when we transition, because they just get pregnant every year. So in this case, they usually keep the babies. So they have the babies nursing them. And so with this process, in a few months, sometimes even less, the milk stops producing, or just enough for her calf and not more. So it's totally possible. That's what happened with one of the farms we worked with. So yeah, it's just this process. And in terms of the production of plant milk, it's also something quite easy and small. We're not transforming them into huge factories or something like that. They usually already have a room that was used for the milking, or where they store the milk and things like that. So this is usually a room that is already made for production. Usually they just have to refresh it, make it safe for food production. And then we are the ones providing them with the equipment and everything. We come, we train them, we teach them the recipe, and we make sure the whole process is in place. And then we handle the rest. We handle distribution, the marketing, everything. So they really just focus on making the milk. So the transition can be a matter of just a few weeks, depending on how ready the farmers are or not, because we don't actually ask them to plant the ingredients we need for the milk. Not in the beginning, at least, so that they can start immediately. And because in some cases farmers don't have arable land, or the land was used by animals, so it cannot just be used like this for human food. So we really wanted a model that makes it easy and less risky for farmers to transition. So we don't ask them to do that, and on the longer term, if they want to do it, that they can start planting, obviously, and then reduce costs like this.
Amazing. Yes, so you have a new model pretty much straight away, before having to worry about planting, harvesting the crops to provide the alternative milks. Interesting. Love it. What are the benefits of decentralized production? Perhaps what other industries do you think that could easily take this on board?
Yeah, so decentralization is something we see a lot in IT, software, and all this. That's where we started seeing it more and more. And in this case, it really helps for just, instead of having everything centralized and controlled by one entity, having it decentralized, and so that it also secures better data and stuff like that. So in our case, what we do is, so instead of having one big factory that produces a plant drink, for example, and then ships it around the world, we prefer to work with farmers and around the world, basically, to produce that. So that there are multiple advantages. Obviously, the first one is that it's much more sustainable. So instead of shipping around the world so that our products can go everywhere, it allows us to keep the production local, to make it with local ingredients, and to sell it only locally. Though we will be able to have it everywhere, because we just will replicate this model to as much farmers as we can. Obviously, it's also better for the local community. We are able to have farmers on the way. It's going to be able to be a the product it's themselves are going to be much fresher, high quality, because it's going to be still a handmade product, basically, with quality and local ingredients instead of a very highly processed product. It helps in general, the how you call it, the central, not central, circular economy, all these things. But like for us, the main reason is really to be able to work with small, medium farmers instead of just having a huge factory, and the impact on sustainability.
We noticed that you've recently paused production of your oat milk as you restructure your business. Can you give us a little glimpse as to what's next for Refarm'd or even yourself? What are you most hopeful for, and what keeps you up at night?
So the first year was really challenging for us to work immediately with 3 farms in 2 different countries and in the middle of a pandemic. So we really learned a lot, and we were so much into it that we could not really take a step back to really think about the product as a whole. So that's why I really wanted to pause that, to also work on the recipe, work on the machinery that was not optimized enough, to change a little bit our distribution model that was really complicated and expensive, and to just make it better. So we work with a lot of business advisors and things like that, and also raise funds, because until now it was self-funded. So now we're really in the phase where we're applying for grants, talking with investors and things like that, and really trying to get Refarm'd to the next level, basically. So that's really the idea, that once we reach that point, we're really gonna start on working again with our partner farm in the UK, to produce our new beverage, our new bettered recipe, which will be a barista version, a fortified barista version, because until now it was a natural oat milk, and to really find a better way to make it successful, so a better distribution channel, and work on developing our own machinery. We're working with engineers to develop our own machinery, because it doesn't really exist at this level, those kind of machines. So we have to do that. And just really make sure that this model is successful with our partner farm, and then so hopefully after 1.5 years with this farm and machinery and recipe, we're able to have really a successful model that we can then start replicating to other farms. So that's really the goal. We are thinking about starting the production again in September. We will start first with our initial recipe, that is the natural oat milk. And in the meantime, where they're producing and selling, we'll be developing the new recipe and working on the machinery.
Wonderful. Look forward to it, Geraldine. Are you, in terms of the product, are you stocked in any stores that we might be able to visit?
We were, but now because we stopped, we're not anymore. We were, yes, we were. We were working with a subscription model, so people could subscribe to get a weekly delivery in a pickup location, and on the same time, we were also selling through a few shops in about 150 to 200 kilometers around the farm. So the farm is in Ashbourne. But now we're going to change that. We're going to stop the subscription model, so that we're going to be selling directly in shops, restaurants, and cafes. And we're going to focus first on cities closer to the farm, to make sure that it's really easy for people in these cities to get the milk. That was a big problem. It was not convenient enough for people to get the milk. And then we're going to be working with other farms. So currently, no, you cannot buy it, but hopefully from September on, then you'll be able to.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much. Now it's time for the quick fire round. So 3 quick questions, if you can try and answer as quick as possible. How do you define sustainability?
Good question. I think it's like the same definition as for veganism. You want to do less harm as possible, where here it's like to do less harm to the planet as possible. So we are still learning, and we're learning all the time. There might be things we didn't think about before, but it's just to find ways to just reflect on what we're doing and find ways to make it better for our planet.
Thank you. What's your favorite sustainability hack?
So many. Very simple facts. Have your own glass or stainless steel bottle that you take everywhere with you, so you don't have to buy plastic bottles. Bring your pots. When you go to restaurants, there are so many little things like that you can do on your daily basis that already help a lot. Bring a bag to a shop, a grocery, instead of getting those bags there and all the things.
So What's your favorite? This is this interesting one. Maybe it won't be such a quick question, but what's your favorite vegan dish, and how do you cook it?
I'm a foodie, so there are lots of food I like. But the first I can think of it would be vegan bolognese. So with pasta or something like that. So I usually do that with TVP, texturized protein, soy protein, and then adding the original stuff that you can find in Bologna as well, how I used to do it, with veggies and then tomato sauce and all these things. And that's a really quick and easy food that is really high in protein and is really, if you like this kind of food before, can really bring you back into your childhood memories with such a simple and nice recipe.
Love that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for speaking with me today, Geraldine. It was honestly a great pleasure learning more about what you're doing with Refarm'd and your connection to ethical living. Can you please let our audience know where we can find you?
Yeah, so we are on Instagram and Facebook. So Instagram Refarm'd official, and on Facebook at Refarm'd. We also have our own website, which is refarmd.com. So Refarm'd without the second E. And then you can find all information there with my email as well and number and things like that, where anybody can obviously reach out to us for anything.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. See you very soon, Geraldine. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye for now. If you enjoyed my conversation with Geraldine, please do share, like, and subscribe for more conversations every Friday, and very much look forward to you joining us next week. Great, wonderful weekend. See you soon. Bye for now.